Hey, how you doing today? I am Taquila Coleman. In today's video, we're going to talk about your spouse is in training to be a faithful man and a prudent wife. So I put up this post over on our community tab right here on the YouTube channel, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about this and just help give you understanding of when did this training start, what is God doing, et cetera, et cetera. So understand, your spouse being in training to be a faithful man and a prudent wife. This started the very first day God told you to start praying for your prodigal spouse. See, the reason why you don't see the faithful man or the prudent wife showing up in your, God ordained prodigal spouse is because of the enemy, right? Satan, his whole purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. So Satan has stolen prodigal's identity, right? He has them bound, and manifesting these evil spirits, right? You see unfaithfulness being manifest through your prodigal spouse. You see pride, lust, all these spirits, right? That not of God, right? Being manifest through your prodigal. And so, this is why you don't see the faithful man or the prudent wife because, you know, they still bound. They still dealing with unhealed childhood wound. They still dealing with, trauma in the past, right? They still have their fears and insecurity they are battling with, right? This is literally a it's like a war that your prodigal spouse is in mentally, right? And so understand this training started the first day you start praying for your God ordained spouse. And so what God is doing, He is, walking with your prodigal during this time. He's going into the enemy's camp, pulling them out of the hand of the enemy, right? God is going to begin to move your prodigal into a level of healing. God is correcting. He is, bringing healing and deliverance to your prodigal spouse. So when we talk about being a faithful man and a prudent wife, I need you to understand what this means, okay? And what God is after, because with a faithful man, God is looking for your God ordained prodigal husband to be faithful in his faith, faithful in his finances, faithful in his character, faithful in, if he's a father, being faithful in fatherhood, faithful in his community. God is going to begin to speak to your prodigal husband when he step into his purpose and call, and he's going to tell him, feed my sheep, right? So God is looking, for your prodigal husband to be faithful in a variety of different areas, his friendships, okay, faithful in his focus, right? Same thing with your prodigal wife. God is looking, he want to mold and shape her into a prudent wife, right? And a prudent wife has everything to do with, your wife becoming a wise wife, right? Not wise according to the world standards, but wise, having the wisdom of God in her, right? Her fearing the Lord, her aligning herself with scripture, respecting her husband, being a submissive wife, right? Making sound, decisions, right? She's a wife who is already preparing for her future, right? And so again, all of this started when God told you to get on your prayer post and start covering your spouse in prayer. And so I need you to understand something here, okay? I'm trying to break this down and help you all to understand, like what's going on here. So the way how your spouse rejected and hurt you in the past or present, I need you to understand that this is exactly how they were hurt, rejected, abandoned, betrayed in the past, okay? So hurt, the saying hurt people, right? And that's not always true, right? Because I know, I've been hurt by a few people, but I didn't go hurting other people based off of what was done to me. No, I sat down and received some healing and, put things in perspective. But in this case, when we're dealing with prodigals hurt people who haven't hurt them, right? Prodigals will bleed on people who didn't cut them. Prodigals will hurt you the same way that they were hurt. They will betray you the same way they were betrayed in the past. They will reject you the same way how they were rejected. They will abandon you the same way how their mother or father abandoned them, right? So I need you to understand that what was done to you by your prodigal was first done to them by someone in their past, okay? And again, this is what God is healing. This is, why God have them in training, right? Because to become a faithful man and a prudent wife, you got to move into a level of healing. You got to sit down and, allow God to bring some correction to your mind, right? God has to lead your prodigal into revelation, like really dealing with that hurt and pain. That's the only way healing comes about, when we face our hurt and pain and deal with it and make a decision, that we want to get better. That's the only way your prodigal spouse will receive their freedom. Okay. So during this time, while your prodigal is in training to be a faithful man and a prudent wife, God is helping them to unlearn toxic behavior. And when we talk about unlearning toxic behavior, number one, they got to begin to identify, right, what is toxic. They got to begin to identify, how does the toxicity show up in them. Right. I remember God taking me through this. And I was a drama queen. I used to create situation, that would bring about that drama that I was used to. Right. And so again, prodigals will have to sit down and face themselves and begin to identify, this is my dysfunction. This is how my drama shows up. This is, what I'm used to getting, and it's toxic, right? You know, and so God is going to walk with them and help them to unlearn some of these toxic behaviors. And God is also going to, the more time your prodigal spend with the Lord, they are going to learn what is healthy, what is good for them. Okay. And when you hear me say the more time your prodigal spends with the Lord, that I'm not always referring to the Bible, because God can send godly men and women across your prodigal spouse's path who can be that role model, who can walk this out in the physical, and they can just observe this person, healthy behavior, or just being in an environment where it's healthy and they picking up on these things. Okay. Another thing is, whether you realize it or not, when we talk about your spouse being in training to be a faithful man and a prudent wife, okay, because again, God is helping them to unlearn toxic behavior. Prodigals don't know what love is, okay? You may not know what love is, but as you allow God to instruct you in this stance, and you are obedient to God's instruction, you don't realize, or maybe you do for some, but when you allow God to lead, guide, and instruct you on how to stand for your God ordained prodigal spouse, and when God say be loyal, right? God give us instruction that, we like, wait a minute, you know, it make you sit down and think. When God say be loyal, or God say forgive your spouse, they were manipulated by the enemy, right? Um, and when you actually do these things, what God is doing, He's using you to teach your prodigal spouse, whether you realize it or not. He's teaching them what love really is and how it looks. Okay, so God is using you to reflect Himself to your prodigal spouse. Because again, prodigals don't know what true love is. Okay, and so just from you praying for them, this is allowing your prodigal to learn, love, pray for me. When you hold your prodigal accountable, now your prodigal get to see, because maybe they never had people that hold them accountable. Maybe they had people who enable their, bad behavior, right? And so now your prodigal get to see, okay, it is love when I'm being held accountable, because accountability brings out or birth my best self, right? So it's like a corrective experience. That's the word they use in counseling. It's like God is correcting their experiences, just by how you are showing up. Okay. But your prodigal get to see that love prays for me, love holds me accountable. When you begin to show respect to your prodigal, even when they don't deserve it. Now let me say this here, because when you hear me talk about showing respect, that don't mean be a doormat. That don't mean allow your prodigal to beat you down with these hurtful words and belittle you. No, that don't mean that. Okay. It just simply means, you showing respect, because that's who you are, right? You want people to treat you with respect, so you treat others with respect, right? But when you operate this way with a prodigal, your prodigal now learns that love respects me. hmm When you are loyal, when your prodigal has given you every reason to not be loyal, now your prodigal gets to see love is loyalty, because maybe all that they have experienced in the past is disloyalty. And you already know this, because whenever we experience so much of the negative, we begin that could turn into a belief. We can begin to see disloyalty as love. You can be rejected so many times in the past to where you start chasing after the people who constantly reject you. And you can find yourself falling in love with these individuals because, again, you've been rejected so many times in the past to where it becomes your new normal. You see it as love now, right? And when a person show up in your life to try to love and accept you, you push that away because you're not used to that, right? So understand, your prodigal is now seeing love as loyalty, right? As you begin to wait on, your prodigal, and you operate in patient, again, scripture say love is patient. So, but you are communicating to your prodigal that love is patient, and love will wait for the one it loves because you are worth it, right? This washes how your prodigal see themselves, because they could be feeling unworthy. They could be feeling, all the opposite, but because you are the one who God is using, your action is communicating a different message to your prodigal that's going against what the enemy is placing in their mind. Okay. When God tells you to forgive your spouse and you actually forgive them, now you're teaching your spouse love forgives. It don't hold grudges. It don't beat you upside the head, and keep reminding you of the past. You see, love actually forgives you. Okay. Love pulls out the best in you. You know, love accepts you and approves of you, right? Love catches you when you fall. This is what God is doing. He got us in position to catch the prodigals while they are falling. We catch them in prayer. That's it, right? You know, and we talk about free will a lot, right? And again, you're communicating to your prodigal. Love allows you to make your own choices. If it's a bad choice, then God is going to deal with them. But you're not operating from a space of control and manipulation. You're giving your prodigal a chance to choose you, to choose if they want to walk into this God ordained, marriage. Now I know I just said if, so don't get in the comments, assuming they're not going to do it. Okay, no, they're coming into agreement with this marriage. Okay, God told you the final say so. He told you the outcome is coming to pass. Okay, so stay in agreement with this word. But understand, okay, you're communicating to your prodigal that love, it never gives up. Okay. And another thing I want to say, because again, as you are allowing God to instruct you and operate in this stance, okay, your behavior, how you show up, which is very important, how you show up in this stance, it will I hear the Lord saying, unlock or lock the door. I hear the Lord saying this in my mind. The way how you show up in this stance is either going to unlock or lock that door. Okay, meaning because prodigals are dealing with certain fears, you have certain fears as well, right? But as you begin to deal with that running man spirit within yourself, and you kill it, you rebuke it, move yourself into deliverance where you calling that running man spirit out, and you stay one with God in this process, when your prodigal see you standing strong by faith, you not running, this helps your prodigal to overcome their fear. Because your prodigal can have a fear, what if, number one, the prodigals might have a fear of just getting married. Okay, let's talk about that. But number two, your prodigal might have a fear, maybe people have given up on your prodigal in the past, maybe at the first sign of a problem or a challenge or a disagreement. People have ended things with them, left them, abandoned them, right? So they might have that fear there. But while you are standing strong, you dealt with that running man spirit within yourself. Now you are helping to silence that fear in your prodigal. Now your prodigal is able to, now you're showing your prodigal a different way of thinking. Now the thought is going through your prodigal spouse's mind. Okay, all right. So maybe they won't, you know, leave at the first at the first sign of a disappointment. Prodigals is already thinking in their mind, I hope I don't mess this up. Okay. So you got to understand they already thinking this. I hope when I get it, I don't mess this up. Right. So this is a fear that they're gonna mess it up. Okay. So again, while you standing strong, you get to show your prodigal, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to leave or abandon you or, call things off just because you made a mistake. If you make a mistake, right? I need y'all to really understand this. Okay. So understand, okay. I could go deep into this, but understand your spouse is in training to be a faithful man and a prudent wife. And again, that training started day one. Soon as God told you to start praying for your prodigal spouse, okay? And the reason why you don't see the faithful man or the prudent wife is because of the enemy. It's because of the unhealed mother and father wounds, because of the trauma, the childhood trauma. It's because of the fear, the insecurity. It's because of the evil spirit. You see more evil spirit manifest through your prodigal than the fruit of the spirit, right? And so this is where we still got to continue to operate by faith. We still got to continue to, believe that God can do the impossible because he can. We still got to, stay one with God, okay? Because that's the only way. Scripture say, can two walk together except they be agreed? When you break covenant with God, you're not in agreement with God and what he can do, right? So we got to always stay in covenant, in agreement, one with God, okay? So that he can show you the impossible, all right? But know that God is moving your spouse into being this faithful man and a prudent wife, okay? So with that, I am Taquila Coleman. I'll talk to you real soon. Take care.